Salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and this is the show where we talk about the things that we love. Movies and movie news, TV and streaming, all that good stuff. Joining me in the love today, we've got our technical director, Jonathan Voico.
Hello, everyone.
Writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer-Burnett.
Hello there.
And most importantly, you guys. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. And yeah, we got a lot of stuff to talk here about today. Let's not waste any time and dive right into it, shall we? And we're going to start off with this. Amazon has announced that the highly anticipated series finale of The Boys will receive an early theatrical release on Tuesday, May the 19th, one day before its official streaming debut. This gives the Emmy-winning superhero drama the grand send-off that it deserves. The final episode will screen exclusively on 4DX theaters at 9:30 p.m., whatever your local time is. Now, this premium format promises fans a total sensory experience with all the 4DX stuff, vibrating seats, motion effects, environmental feedback to match the blood, gore, and chaotic action of the show's climax. Now, similar to how theaters handled the Stranger Things finale, rather than buying traditional movie tickets for this, viewers can secure their seats by purchasing a $30 concession voucher that can then be spent on food, sodas, and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like you're getting the food and drinks in your tickets for free. I've already bought my tickets. Rob, are you going to go get yours?
They're gone. The tickets are gone, John. On the way from the time I read your show notes to the time I got here, I was not Johnny on the spot. I failed you. I failed our viewers. I failed myself.
What do you think about this? Is this a good idea? Bad idea?
Look, I think it's a fantastic idea, and I really hope it ends with the entire world immolating in nuclear fire.
Well, considering there's going to be sequel series, I doubt that's going to be the
prequel,
case.
Man. They're prequel series. Gen V got canceled. We're going back to see the beginning.
But we know they've got others, so we've got the
alternate reality.
Alternate reality.
There'll be a new superhero that'll time travel. It'll go back and prevent Homelander from ever being born, and they can move forward. No, I think this show, it's very cinematic. It has great characters. This has the sensibility of a movie, like it always has. I think it's going to play like gangbusters. I would love to see this film in a theater full of people because the reaction's going to be great.
Oh, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And listen, to kind of drive home the point you were making about it selling out, look at this. I went to Regal's website just to look up, the screens where on May 19th, this Boys is going to be playing. So I'm going to go to the Irvine Spectrum. Now, I think the tickets only went online about an hour and a half ago. All right, let's click on this showtime here. What do we got here at the Irvine Spectrum? Nothing. You got 2 single seats at the front and some and handicap spots near there at the front. That's it. So that's already sold. I
told Jonathan I'll limp in.
What if I went to the one at Regal Garden Grove? Again, 2 individual at the front corners.
Probably the worst seats in the entire auditorium.
Absolute worst seats in the entire auditorium. Let's try another one here. Let's try the Edwards Ontario Place, the Regal Edwards Ontario Place. 1 single seat at the very front of the theater. And I even looked up some of the seats in LA. Gone. Like when you went to the LA, what's the main one right downtown by the Crypto Center? Anyway, the downtown LA one, it didn't even let you click on it.
Yeah, it was go away.
Yeah, it just said, just go away. It just said, go, it's done.
I have
it's
to check
sold.
out the Harkins Mountain Grove 16. I don't even know if it's playing there, but I'm going to check.
Is that out there in Redlands? Is that where you are out there?
Yes.
I think we need a 40X, though.
They got the Cine XLs.
Oh, okay.
But it's only 4DX. It's only playing on 4DX screens. That's it.
Wow, does that mean I should bring my milk with me if I get a ticket?
Oh, my God, yeah. Listen, by the way, I bought 4 tickets to the Irvine Spectrum. If you want one, you can come.
Wow, you know what? I might take you up on that. What day is that?
It's the 19th, the day before the finale. So here's the interesting thing about this, too. This is yet the next example of them doing this thing where they can't officially sell tickets because then they got to go through the whole quagmire of splitting up because now it's making money in a movie theaters. Now you got to pay the directors a bit, and you got to pay the actors a bit. So they're doing this thing where instead of buying a ticket, you purchase a coupon for concession stand. In our case of this, it's $30. Jonathan was saying, and I think you were right, Jonathan, that the Stranger Things one, I think, was $20.
Yeah, it was way cheaper.
Yeah, guys in the live chat, correct us if we're wrong. And listen, I get it. $30 sounds steep, but if I get to use all that $30 to stuff my face with ice cream and popcorn and soda,
Although it is the worst format possible to buy concessions for.
This will only be my second screening ever in a 4DX. The only other 4DX movie I've ever seen was the Twisters.
I saw the new Sam Raimi movie in 4DX.
Send Help?
Send Help. And it was
was in 4DX.
Yeah, it was in 4DX at the Spectrum. That's the only movie I've ever seen in 4DX. And let me just say, whoever programmed that 4DX theater did a wonderful job, because it was a fantastic experience. You know, I got drooled on by native animals. It was fantastic.
You know what's funny? Going to a 4DX screen. So Anne is like 5'2", 5'3". Her feet don't touch the ground.
Even when she walks?
She's that angelic. But so she's sitting. So in the 4DX, as we're watching Twisters, at least with my feet on the ground, I can, like, sometimes they lift off the ground.
Yeah.
But you can sort of stabilize yourself. Anne's feet don't touch the ground. So we're watching Twisters. And she's like being tossed all over the place like a rag doll. This is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to this. Guys, question is for you. Apparently, a lot of people are going to go see this because the theaters are already selling out. If you are interested in going to see The Boys finale in theaters, I encourage you to go get your tickets right now because, again, they're selling out. Every movie theater, other than some single seats in the very front row, anywhere within 50 miles of me, are not available. So whatever you guys can do, jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. That down, let's move on to this. I love this. Director Kenneth Branagh has expressed interest in returning to the Marvel Cinematic Universe to direct a final installment of the Thor franchise. Now, having directed the original 2011 film that launched Chris Hemsworth's tenure as the God of Thunder, and is, by the way, the second most underrated comic book movie in history, just next to Man of Steel, and I saw it in theaters 7 times. Branagh revealed in a recent interview that he has long envisioned and thought about doing a glorious Twilight send-off for Thor. He credits James Mangold's gritty superhero masterpiece Logan as a tonal inspiration. While he acknowledges that Marvel's future roadmap may already be completely locked in stone, Branagh believes a poetic, sunset-style conclusion would be a beautiful way to wrap up Thor's long-running arc. Branagh's incredible resume includes directing and starring in highly acclaimed adaptations such as the Oscar-nominated Henry V back in 1989, the lively romantic comedy Much Ado About Nothing in 1993, and the visually stunning 4-hour epic of Hamlet in 1996. Disney's blockbuster live-action reimagining of Cinderella, which, by the way, is probably the best live-action adaptation they've done, is also his, and his semi-autobiographical coming-of-age drama Belfast back in 2021 got him an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay and nominations for Best Director and Best Picture. Kenneth Branagh, Rob, is simply the man, and I love his Thor movie. You know, they brought him back for just one little thing. Some people don't know this. At the beginning of Infinity War.
Oh, yeah.
Right? When Infinity War starts and you hear the distress signal being sent out from Thor's ship, that's Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah.
They got to come in and do this. Anyway, Rob, Kenneth Branagh is saying he'd like to come back and direct another Thor movie, do a Logan-style Thor movie. What would you think about that?
Dude, I love Kenneth Branagh. You know, his first feature film was an adaptation of Henry V that he stars in. You know, We Few, We Happy Few, that St. Christmas Day speech.
He got young Christian Bale.
I love that movie so much, and I'm a big Kenneth Branagh fan. And what's great is what he has, being a Royal Shakespeare Company savant and a Shakespeare savant. I mean, I love his Hamlet. If you haven't seen his 4-hour Hamlet, what's wrong with all of
His
you?
Hamlet's amazing.
You know, the people are like, what's Hamlet? Alas, but I think that he would do a great job. Sorry, I think he would do a great job. I mean, because he understands how to make something both Shakespearean and very grounded. Like he understands. I don't think. Look, I recently rewatched his movie Dead Again. It came out in 4K.
Oh my gosh, I totally forgot about
It's
that.
not good.
It's not. No, there's a reason why I haven't remembered that one.
It's not good, but I watched it. But I do think overall he's provided me with many hours of enjoyment, and I think his sensibility is perfect for Thor, and wanting to do, you know, Godfall Thor, whatever it's called, Whalefall Thor. He'd get out of that whale. I think it could be great. I'd love to see that movie. I think it'd be great to bring him back.
Listen, and I simply think that I don't know that the MCU is where it is today if it wasn't for that first Thor movie. I mean, yes, Iron Man kicked it off 100%. Like it really did. But that Thor movie followed that up beautifully.
I can't agree with you more, because my whole thing when they started the MCU, I was all like, how are they going to make us believe that Iron Man can exist in the same universe as Thor? I'm like, there's no way, much less have Captain America. And I think that was the genius of the MCU, was making all three of those characters believable. And when you put them together in that Avengers movie, if you didn't believe that those three characters could coexist in the same frame, the MCU never would have worked. And that was the genius. I think you're right. I think Kenneth Branagh's handling of Thor, especially when he got brought down to earth, because it could have been too broad. The broad humor was there, like when he's drinking and smashes the glass.
Another.
If Taika Waititi had directed the first Thor, it wouldn't have worked.
I agree.
And I think that what Kenneth Branagh did was maybe as vital to the MCU as any other director's contribution to the series.
Because when you look at the first Iron Man, right? It's a guy. There's a fantastical element to it because he's so smart with science that he makes his armor. With Captain America, it's a guy. There's a fantastical element because he gets this elixir, this serum that they manufactured and let him kind of become this super soldier.
Yeah.
But Thor was the first time that they truly went into the fantastical. Can you take the fantastical and make it feel like it fits right in with what they did with Thor and with Captain America? And you're right. If they didn't nail that at that point, I don't know how you recover from that in an MCU. Kenneth Branagh found a way to bring his Shakespearean weight, his wonderful wit, and just made it all work. And by the way, not only did it give us Chris Hemsworth as Thor, but it gave us Loki as one of the most beloved characters in all of the MCU
And
as well.
Odin and the Warriors 3.
Oh, it gave us so much. And that's
And
why,
Asgardian Gort.
that's why I call it the second most underrated, underappreciated comic film of all time. So I love this. Now, look, I don't think Kenneth Branagh is going to come back and do another one. I think as you know, the story points out, and Kenneth Branagh points out himself, it looks like Kevin Feige usually operates on a 5-year plan. And so I don't know if there's room for him to suddenly slide in this extra Thor movie, but all I know is this. If it ever did happen, sign me up. I wouldn't be able to wait for it. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? The great Kenneth Branagh is saying he would love to come back and direct another Thor movie, kind of giving him a send out like a Logan-style Thor movie. I would love to see something like that. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this. Ready to feel old?
Uh-oh.
10 years ago today, on Thursday, May the 5th, 2016, the very first public screenings of Marvel Studios' Captain America: Civil War hit movie theaters. What began as an ideological rift over superhero accountability quickly escalated into a story of deeply personal tragedy, cementing its legacy as one of the most narratively ambitious and emotionally heavy chapters in the entire MCU. Functioning as a sort of Avengers 2.5, the film introduced audiences to Tom Holland's Spider-Man and to Chadwick Boseman's Black Panther in the same film, while delivering the legendary airport battle that to this day I believe is the gold standard for action sequences in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Bro.
By dismantling the Avengers' unity, Civil War laid the tragic but essential groundwork for the stakes of Infinity War and Endgame, proving that the ultimate threat to Earth's mightiest heroes wasn't an alien conqueror, but their own broken trust. Now, beyond its staggering cultural impact, Civil War was a box office juggernaut, raking in an incredible $1.15 billion worldwide during its theatrical run. And today, a decade later, the movie still holds its ground as a historic financial triumph, currently sitting at number 32 on the all-time box office list and ranking as the 10th highest grossing superhero film of all time. 10 years on, the debate of Team Cap versus Team Iron Man still sparks a lot of debate, proving that Civil War didn't just break the bank, it set a high watermark for interconnected storytelling that the rest of the industry is still trying to play catch up with. 10 years ago, Rob. You know, when I think about the greatest superhero films of all time, my top three are, in no particular order, Dark Knight, Logan, and the original Avengers movie. But in the top five for me is Civil War. I think it is simply one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. When you look back now on Civil War, 10 years later, what do you think of it now, 10 years on, about its legacy, its importance to the MCU as a whole, and where does it sit for you in like the overall pantheon of the great comic book movies?
You know, I talked about this a couple months back. I don't know why, but I just threw it on to watch it. And what struck me, that whole opening scene, you know, when they're going after, was it Remlo or whatever, or Skull and Bones? I forget which one. Somebody from Winter Soldier. Crossbones. They're going after Crossbones. That opening scene is so beautifully staged, where you have Cap and Falcon and you have Wanda, you know, going after this
trying to
elixir.
Get this virus thing, whatever it was. Yeah.
It is, you know, it's the Russo brothers' second film. The action, and I understand they have second unit directors. I get it. But that whole opening sequence is so brilliantly mounted. It's as good an action scene as you'll see in almost any movie. And the action geography of where people are, because a lot of the time in our modern age, like you look at a movie like Snake Eyes, when it's not well choreographed and it's not well directed, they resort to shaky cam and quick cutting to hide this film is so assured in its direction. And, you know, like every great action sequence, you are following our characters. You never don't know where you are. It's a really brilliantly mounted sequence. And then after that, it becomes compelling drama. I mean, like you said, that they take the Civil War storyline from the comics, they change it, but the central idea is great. And to make Steve Rogers the outlier, to make him the one that doesn't believe in governmental control and go with Tony Stark saying, no, we need to be regulated, is such a great, I mean, I know they got that from the comics, but it's such a great, they play it up so well. And I love the ensemble. I mean, again, this is why I'm deliriously excited for Doomsday. Because the Russo brothers, when they're cooking with Feige, and they've got, I mean, they don't have Marcus and McFeely back to write. They've got one of them back, but they got another great writer. They know how to combine action and character. And that's where the Marvel Cinematic Universe is at its best. And they know how to do it. And this film is a great example of that. When you take your little detour to Queens, you know, and Stark is meeting Aunt May, and you meet Spider-Man for the first time.
What an amazing introduction for the character.
You know, and they were going to cut that scene. And Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. said no, you know, because that was like the audition scene. That's like a mini movie unto itself. And it began their relationship. It's delightful.
What's great about it
is we meet Black Panther too.
What's great about it is it's the pacing. It's a masterclass in pacing, because you actually forget Spider-Man is in the movie. Because of when it comes, and when you see Queens, you're like, oh my God, I forgot. Right. And I've seen that movie so many times, and every time I forget.
You're absolutely right. I mean, and you know what? I think Baron Zemo, people are like, well, maybe he's not Darth Vader, but he wins. He won. He tore the Avengers apart. They're not back together at the end of that movie. And then we get to see him dance later. And
One of the great memes of our generation.
Dancing. And by the way, they picked the casting of the MCU. One day people will marvel again at how great those movies are cast, because he was great casting. I love that guy.
Oh, Daniel Bruhl?
Yeah. I mean, remember him from Pulp Fiction? I mean, from Inglourious Bastards. He was great.
And did you ever see that one he did with Chris Hemsworth, the car racing?
Oh, yeah. Rush.
Rush. So good.
And also, I mean, even T'Chaka is brilliantly cast. Of course, Chad Boseman. I mean, you introduce Black Panther and Spider-Man in one movie. That movie is dope. I love it.
I also love the fact that everything about the setup for Civil War, here's a word that fans overuse, but I think it should be used here. It was earned.
Yeah.
Because, you'd think on the one hand, Captain America, he's all about the red, white, and blue. He'd be on the side of the government. But because of the era he comes from, he's disillusioned with what America has kind of become.
Yeah.
Then Tony, the fierce independent guy, but they set it up so he has that scene at the beginning where he's faced with the consequences of their action, and he really feels it. Now, at the end of the day, it still makes me laugh that there's still debate over Team Cap or Team Iron Man. Even by the end of Civil War, Tony was on Team Cap. By the end of that movie, Tony was completely on Team Cap at that point. But it set up this great ideological debate, and because it asked some really questions. If these superpowered beings were around, should there not be accountability?
Yeah.
Shouldn't they have to answer to somebody? And I just love the whole, and then it doesn't skimp on the action. It's just,
and they also do
so
a great
good.
job. There's not a lot of it, but they do a great job setting up the relationship between Wanda and Vision as well.
Yes.
That they pay off again in Infinity
That is not
War.
paprika.
Yeah. And then it goes all the way back, I mean, into WandaVision. That would not have worked. They would never have made WandaVision if the Russo brothers and Kevin Feige and Marcus and McFeely didn't do what they did in Civil War, and that legacy carries on to Vision Quest as well.
Here's the real magic of that. Here's the real magic of it. Because you can say, well, what they did in the comics. You get no. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. It's in a comic book. Great. How do you make a romance between a toaster and a witch feel emotionally resonant? How do you do that? Because that's ridiculous. The whole concept is ridiculous. And yet the way they set it up, it's so sweet when they set it up. And then it pays off, of course, later with maybe the single greatest line in Marvel Cinematic Universe history with what is grief if not love persevering. Fuck the MCU. That's one of the great lines in all of film or television ever. I mean, they set that up so it was believable and we felt it. And we loved it, and that was a near impossible thing to do.
And also, if you think about Paul Bettany's involvement, he started out as the voice of Jarvis.
Yep.
And then they had the wherewithal to bring him along and make him Vision, and he's going to get a chance to shine in Vision Quest like you can't possibly imagine until you've seen it. At least I hope that's the case.
There's a great story that Paul Bettany told. I think it was on Jimmy Kimmel. It might have been Jimmy Kimmel. Anyway, he was telling the story where he'd already done the voice of Jarvis. And he was literally walking down Hollywood Boulevard. He had just come from a meeting with a studio and another role he wasn't going to get. And he said he was on the phone with his agency that was basically telling him, your career's wrapping up here. You can't get roles.
Right.
And he said 5 minutes later, I got a call from Kevin Feige. He says, do you want to play the live action Vision? And he said, yes. It's such a great, you got to go find him telling that story because it was great. Anyway, guys, question is for you. First of all, can you believe it's been 10 years? 10 years from today that Civil War kind of opened up in theaters. When you think of Civil War now, what do you think about? What's its legacy for you? Where does it rank for you amongst the best comic book movies? Does it even rank amongst the best for you? And what are the things that really stay with you and stand out? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, I was thinking last night, what we haven't done in a while?
Uh-oh.
We haven't played ourselves a game of overreaction. So we thought we would play ourselves a round of overreaction today. The way overreaction works is really simple. I jumped on our community tab on the YouTube channel and I asked you guys simply to give us your best hot takes. And then we were going to gather up a few of those hot takes, and Rob and I would adjudicate whether your hot take is an overreaction or not. Jonathan's got a few of them gathered up there. So Jonathan, what do we got up here first?
Okay, first up, Rob.
Uh-oh.
Is this an overreaction from Kev Dax? The DCU will never reach the height of the MCU during 2017 to 2021.
I think that's an overreaction because, I mean, look, the DCEU is basically where we're at when Thor came out. You know, they've got one movie to come out. And I would say after seeing the trailer for Clayface, I think anything goes. You know, I think who knows where the DC universe is going to be, I mean, remember, you're asking about the MCU almost 10 years into its run. Assuming James Gunn's architecture prevails and we're going to be into whatever comes after Gods and Monsters, who knows where they're going to be. So I think that's an overreaction. I think it's too early to tell.
I'm going to say it's not an overreaction.
I was trying to be optimistic.
and I appreciate, listen, I feel like no matter how great, and I think James Gunn is great, and I think the wave they've kicked off this DCU has been wonderful. But here's the thing, you're asking, DCU will never reach the heights of the MCU during 2017, 2021. Guys, nothing is ever going to reach the heights of the MCU in that time period.
I changed my mind. You're right.
I mean, that's just the thing. It's not guys, the MCU will never hit the heights of the MCU of that time. Now, don't get me wrong. Secret Wars can be massive. Doomsday can be massive. But you're talking about an era of the MCU where every single project was crushing it out of the park. It felt like every single movie coming out was making $1 billion. Like, so to say, well, the DCU will never, well, sure, that's probably not an overreaction to say that. But just keep in mind, nothing will ever hit those heights again.
You're right.
You're talking about the most successful film franchise in that period of time in history. So I'm going to say it's not an overreaction. You had something else you wanted to add to that?
Well, I mean, just the ending with Infinity War and Endgame, there's an argument to be made that Infinity War and Endgame are two of the greatest fantasy films ever made. They're right up there. I mean, if you were to say to me, Lord of the Rings being number one, you know, the greatest, I could say that Infinity War and Endgame are definitely number 2 or number 3 in terms of a satisfying experience. Of course, they have everything behind them, but still, those could have gone either way, and it didn't. Those are the most other than Godfather 1 and Godfather 2. I watch Infinity War and Endgame probably the most of any serious thing of all time.
And listen, by the way, I'm not saying that James Gunn can't make the movies as good as the MCU movies, but you're saying like hitting those heights, like those all-time peaks. I just don't think anything's ever going to hit that again. Anyway, all right, what's next?
All right, is this an overreaction, John? When we hear from Bold Nikos, after the Odyssey movie, Homer's Greek epics will be popular again with selling records.
I'm going to call that an overreaction. And the reason I'm going to call it an overreaction, and you never know, you might be right, but the reason I'm going to call it an overreaction is because we have a very similar precedent to what's going on with the Odyssey. Back when The Lord of the Rings was going to come out, a lot of people thought, especially after we first started seeing it, when we first saw Fellowship of the Ring, people thought, oh my God, get ready for a whole new era of sword and sandal movies. This is going to be it, because Lord of the Rings, everything's going to be sword and sandal movies. But what actually happened was the opposite. A lot of studios started recoiling from sword and sandal movies because they didn't want to be compared to Lord of the Rings. And with the Odyssey coming out, I think we have that same first kind of thing. It's like, oh my God, if this is big, then watch all the big Greek mythos movies coming out. But it actually might have the opposite effect. Again, we don't have a lot of precedent, but we do have that Lord of the Rings one. So I'm going to say that this is an overreaction. Rob, what about you?
I think it's a total overreaction. Although I do think that people are going to go revisit Wolfgang Petersen's Troy once they realize it's a prequel to the Odyssey.
They may. They may. Hey, we just saw The Devil Wears Prada, the original film, have a 400% spike in streaming because the sequel is coming out. I think you're going to see a number of those types of movies get watched as we get closer and closer to the Odyssey coming out. All right, what's next?
All right, Rob, is this an overreaction? We're going to hear from Callum. Daredevil Born Again Season 2 will be nominated for Best Drama at the Emmys.
I don't think that's an overreaction. I don't think it's going to be. but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility.
You know what? I was going to say this is an overreaction because I think Daredevil this season has been great, and I'm really looking forward to watching the finale tonight. I've really enjoyed this season. And it's great, but it's not on the level of Andor great.
That's true.
It's not on the level of The Last of Us season 1 great. It's not on the level of, say, Shogun. Well, nothing's on the level of Shogun, but it's not on the level of Shogun great. But you know what? I think you just changed my mind. Is it good enough that it's at least conceivable? That would I bet $1,000 against it getting a nomination? No, I wouldn't. I might bet $5 against, but I would not bet $1,000.
Go to Poly Market right now.
Oh, geez. So I'm going to say now it's going to spike. So I think you just changed my mind. Yeah, I'm going to go with you. I'm going to say, you know what? It's good enough that I can't call it an overreaction. So I don't think it will, like Rob. I don't think it will, but it's possible enough that I'm going to say, yeah, you're right, Rob. It's not an overreaction.
There's too many good performances in
Yeah.
it. And I wouldn't, if Vincent D'Onofrio gets a nomination, I would not be
Dude, the way
surprised.
that last episode
Bro.
ended, oh my God. Like that caught me off guard. Did you hear what happened with that? The guy who plays Buck
Right?
was interviewed. By the way, this is going to spoil the ending of last week's episode, but if you don't know what happened in last week's episode, you're not watching the show anyway. But
Now go home.
Buck said, the actor who plays Buck said, when we shot it, I don't shoot him. I just walk out. They changed their mind later and CG'd him shooting the gun and walking out. So I guess the original plan was for him to live, and they
Wow.
changed it. Anyway, it's been stunning. Sorry, we're going off on a rabbit
That's
trail here.
hardcore, man.
What is next?
Okay. Well, I think this is back to you, John. I'm gonna guess. Is this an overreaction when we hear from Seth Draven? Secret Wars will pass The Force Awakens at the domestic box office.
A lot of people forget. I got to open this up now.
Gosh, wasn't that like
A lot of people forget that globally, Avatar is the biggest film of all time. But domestically, US market, the highest grossing film of all time is not Avengers, it's not Endgame, it's not Avatar, it's Star Wars The Force Awakens,
By a wide margin.
which made $936 million in the North American box office alone. Now, that is almost $100 million more than Avengers Endgame. I'm going to say, thinking that Secret Wars will pass that, I think that's an overreaction. Now, it's going to make more money globally overall than The Force Awakens. That I have no doubt about. But I don't know that any movie's ever going to break that Force Awakens record. I really don't. Secret Wars certainly has a chance. Doomsday has a chance. But if I had to bet $5, I'm betting it's not getting broken. So I'm going to say the idea that Secret Wars will pass the Force Awakens record for the highest grossing movie ever domestically, I'm going to say that's an overreaction. Rob, what about you?
I think it's an overreaction as well, because Star Wars, The Force Awakens had something going for it that I don't think any other movie, because there hadn't been a Star Wars movie in a decade, and Star Wars fervor with all of the ancillary, like Star Wars video games were incredibly popular still. And the Star Wars franchise, the books were popular, and people were hungry for Star Wars, especially a whole generation of people that hadn't seen, that grew up with the prequels, and then it was kind of over, and I think that the ramp up, even us, you had multi-generations of people waiting. Gen X certainly wanted to see it, and all the generations beneath Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, Gen A, whatever. Was there Gen A 10 years ago? But that's why that movie, I don't think any other movie will ever have that particular kind of anticipation.
And here's the other thing too. The movie made what, 200, I want to say
Yes.
247 million opening weekend?
I'll check.
Yeah, double check that. But I think it's like 247 million one of the biggest opening weekends of all time. But here's the catch. Even if you take away that astonishing opening weekend, take it out.
240. Yeah, almost 248.
Almost 248. Take that away. pretend that didn't happen. Even if you take away that monstrous opening weekend, it would still be the number 5 all-time domestic film. Even if you took away that
That's
huge
wild.
opening weekend. People went back again and again. I remember me and John Schnepp would go at least 2 or 3 times a week. We would run across the street to the theater on our lunch breaks and we'd just go watch The Force Awakens. It just had, and
I think I went and saw like a 6-something a.m. and then I went into Collider or AMC after that, like for
remember
work.
that. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I just, and the way movie going patterns are today, man, that 936 million, I just don't see that record being broken anytime soon. I mean, again, it's possible, but I just don't see it happening.
I still think the 3 most profitable words in movie marketing are Chewie, we're home.
Oh,
I think that single-handedly sold $1 billion in tickets.
I remember I saw grown men weeping real tears when you see Han Solo saying, Chewie, we're home. I mean, it was amazing. Anyway, okay.
All right.
What's next?
We're going to get over to you, Rob, for our final one here. Is this an overreaction when we hear from ISS Productions with Lord of the Rings, The Hunt for Gollum, and Avengers Secret Wars both releasing on December 17th, 2027. Doomsday will impact how those films will release.
I don't think that's an overreaction because people are going to look at that. They're going to look at releasing 2 big tentpole properties on the same day. Can that work? Can that not work? But it just made me realize we have an opportunity right now. What is that day going to be called? What is the Secret Wars Gollum Hunt for a Gollum Day? We can come up with that name
Secret
right
Gollum.
here.
I'm your Secret Gollum.
Hunt Wars?
Your Secret Gollum.
Yeah. No, this is absolutely not an overreaction. If Doomsday crushes
Hunt for Secret Wars.
the way we suspect it will, they are going to start the marketing campaign for whatever that Hunt for Gollum Secret Wars weekend is going to be. They're going to start, the 2 studios are going to start getting each other on the phone. They're going to start talking about what phrase should we coin for this thing. They're going to be talking about it all the time. They're going to triple down on it. It's going to be all Secret Gollum all the time. That's all it's going to be between now and December 2027. What's that?
Precious
Secrets.
Secrets.
Precious Secret. Precious Wars.
Precious Wars.
There it is. Precious Wars. But if Doomsday,
Lord of the Wars, Secret Gollum.
according to the markets, disappoints, the 2 studios will be on the phone with each other again.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of let's make a deal for one of us to move. It's absolutely so. It's not only not an overreaction, you are 100% on the money.
Yeah.
What happens with Doomsday is 100% going to dictate whether a Lord of the Rings film and an Avengers film both actually open on the same day or not.
Do you think Marvel has gotten a hold of IMAX to avoid any, like, Lord of the Rings does not get exclusivity on IMAX?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And you know what? I don't think they're. I think Dune 3 and Doomsday are a great neck and neck kind of a franchise explosion of deliciousness. I don't think that Secret Wars and Hunt for Gollum are equally matched. I think Hunt for Gollum, people are a little dubious about it. What is this movie going to be? Whereas Secret Wars is going to be coming off of one of the most bonkers bananas experiences anybody is ever going to have in a movie theater with Doomsday. And they can't wait. And whereas Gollum is going to be a wait and see.
You know what? I agree. But I was personally shocked how much I started salivating when they showed us that little tease for the Hunt for Gollum at CinemaCon.
I know. And it was nothing new. It was
No,
just repurposed
it was
footage.
just the mountains. Like
know,
they go
dude.
the aerial shot of the mountains and Gollum speaking. And I'm like, because before CinemaCon, I'm like, hey, Andy Serkis, 2nd unit director on The Lord of the Rings, Gollum himself, new story. I'm interested. Sure, I'm interested. Whatever. Nothing big, but I'm interested. And then when I'm watching this stuff, the presentation at CinemaCon, I'm like, I can't wait for this movie. And I wonder if other people are going to feel the same way when they actually start marketing this thing.
I mean, there are a few things that can visually manipulate me the way footage from Lord of the Rings can.
But also keep this in mind too. You can make an argument. I mean, I don't even think it's an argument. I think it's a fact. Avengers Doomsday and Dune are also not on equal footing, right? Dune is not a $1 billion franchise.
No, but I think in terms of anticipation for people that want to see it, you know, the fan base, I think it does have a certain cachet. And you know what? It also has a theme song.
Which one?
But they have a
Dune
Hulk.
3.
Oh yeah, it's so good. So
It has
good.
the only other thing that has a better theme song is the theme from Star Blazers.
Oh, Space Battleship Yamato,
That's
baby.
right. All
right, guys. That will wrap up this installment of Overreaction. Thank you so much for sending in those hot takes. Keep your eyes open on the YouTube channel for when we put out our call for the next round of hot takes, and maybe you'll see your hot take on the next round of Overreaction. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this. You know, I was having a discussion with a buddy of mine who lives on the other side of the country. And we hadn't talked in a little bit, so we started running down some of the films that we're really excited about and everything. And of course, we get around to Doomsday. And as we started talking, you know, of course, it's a can't miss. You know, knowing some of the things that are happening in the movie, people are going to love it. You can already feel the energy and excitement for it. Hell, 50 billion people watch the idiotic chair watch. I mean, it's a can't miss, right? But that got us on to a little bit of a conversation of, well, what could go wrong? And I thought about that more after the conversation. And so I thought it would be interesting for us to take a minute and talk about what I consider to be the 5 mistakes that Avengers Doomsday has to miss. Now, listen, Avengers Doomsday, we are a movie show talking about movies. There is no doubt that Avengers Doomsday is going to be the biggest movie of the year. It might be the biggest movie of the last 5 years. We'll have to see. But it's a major, major thing, and a lot of stuff is riding on it. And so I think there are going to be 5 big things they're going to need to avoid. So, Rob, I want to run down my 5 things. Then I want to get your impression of those things, and if there's any you would add to the list. All right?
Okay.
So with that said, let's get on to the first big mistake that Avengers Doomsday has to miss. It's got to avoid pointless cameos.
So Palpatine can't return.
Somehow. Now, here's a great example of this, okay? Spoiler warning for any of you who have not seen the final episode of Maul Shadow Lord. But, you know, at the end of Maul Shadow Lord, at least in the last episode, to nobody's surprise, Darth Vader shows up. When you start hearing the, oh, my skin crawled, my goosebumps, like all that kind of stuff. Now, you can say, of course, popular cameo. Yes, but it fit the story. If Maul's there, Emperor don't like that, you got to send your heaviest hitter and you got to take care of that. It made sense. It served the story. It wasn't just dropping in Darth Vader so people who know Star Wars can go, oh, look, it's Darth Vader. We know him. It wasn't pointless. It's fine that we're going to get a lot of players in Avengers Doomsday. That's totally fine. We get it. I just think they need to make sure that whichever characters they drop in, there's a clear purpose for why were they on that screen for 30 seconds? Why were they there for those 5 minutes? Whatever it is, make sure there is a narrative, functioning, purposeful reason why they pop up. As long as you do that, the cameos can feel perfectly organic and perfectly placed. But if you don't, then it just starts to feel like member berries a little bit, and it can totally sidetrack you.
One exception.
What's that?
Madison.
Yeah. She can be in Secret
Even then,
Wars.
have her appearance mean something or do
As long,
something.
wouldn't it be funny if she's there with Wong and they don't even say why? They're like dating.
They're just watching something on TV
Yeah.
with a big bag of chips. Oh, God, I do want... You know, I hated Madison when we first met her, and now I want nothing more than more Madison. All right, so the first big mistake they've got to avoid is pointless cameos. Here's the second mistake they need to avoid. Just using the movie as a setup for Secret Wars. You cannot do that. We all know what Secret Wars is, and we all know how big of a deal that is, And this is the event. The events of Doomsday are what's going to then transfer us into the events of Secret Wars. But you've got to treat this movie as its own standalone thing. I take us back to Infinity War and Endgame. Are the two forever connected? Absolutely. But was Infinity War its own true beginning, middle, and standalone movie at the same time? The answer is yes. It served its own purpose, its own function. It's had its own stories to tell. And it then perfectly ushered us into Endgame, absolutely, as a continuation. But it was never felt like a part one of a part two. You know what I mean? It never felt like it's an incomplete thing. That movie was its own movie. Empire Strikes Back, even though it has this cliffhanger at the end, it was its own movie. I was just talking about Fellowship of the Ring. It was its own movie. They've got to make sure they don't fall into the trap, as excited as everybody is to do one of the ultimate comic book stories of all time, Secret Wars, to not just treat this movie as a setup for Secret Wars, make sure it gets the credit and the respect that it deserves. So that's something they ought to be careful of. All right. The third mistake that they must avoid in making Avengers Doomsday is assuming how much inside baseball knowledge the audience has. This has been a big thing for Marvel for a long time, about forcing the audience to do homework, whether it's with the previous MCU stuff. But listen, there's a lot of stuff that we're all looking forward to in Secret Wars, right? And there's a lot of gooey goodness in there. But when you're making this movie, you cannot assume that the audience understands or knows any of those concepts. You have to approach it like this is the first time everybody in the audience is being exposed to even the skeleton of this Secret Wars story that we're all building up to, right? If they make the mistake of having a bunch of things play out that they just assume that the audience knows, not just for Secret Wars, but for past Marvel Cinematic stuff, right? I've always contended that the true magic secret sauce to the success of the MCU was the fact that they treated every single movie as a valid and real entry point for a new fan to hop on board and never feel lost. They've lost a little bit of that in the last few years. And so they have to really make sure they don't fall into that trap with Doomsday. So I'm going to say that's the third thing that they need to avoid. The fourth thing that they must avoid, don't skimp out on the action. Now, I can already hear a lot of people going, well, John, sometimes Marvel gets criticized for being nothing but action. True. But again, in having your first Avengers film in 7 years, and an Avengers film that is leading us into Secret Wars, and with a lot of the emotional hooks we have going, there could be the temptation to make nothing but a dramatic movie. And that's fine, except this is an Avengers film. I just need to know that they're going to make sure that as they're telling this deep, character-rich story, that they also remember it's an Avengers movie. I loved Brandon Routh's Superman Returns. I love the movie, but the one criticism I've always had about it, the way I kind of describe it, is it was a great movie that failed to be a great comic book movie. Ultimately, he fought a mountain and fought a falling plane. And, you know, you got to remember that at its core, this is a comic book film. You want to be more than that. You want to transcend the genre, but you are still a part of the genre. And I just hope they make sure not to forget to pack in a good amount of action, because it is, after all, an Avengers film. All right. The fifth thing that I say is a mistake they must avoid, and this might be the biggest one. None of these are in any particular order, but this might be the biggest one. Don't fail to have a definitive ending. Avoid this mistake. Again, let's go back to Avengers Infinity War. You can say all you want. It was a cliffhanger. No, it wasn't. The ending of Infinity War was not a cliffhanger. It was a definitive ending.
They lost.
Thanos won.
And it was like half a decade before they even regrouped.
Yes,
Right.
It was 5 years later. The ending of Infinity War was the bad guy won. That was it. Now, we pick up the story later on, Sure, that happens in every movie franchise.
All because of a rat.
Sure, but you have to make sure, while we all know that we are heading into Secret Wars, and while it's perfectly fine that, like Empire Strikes Back, the Empire wins, but hey, it leaves us with this door open that Han's been taken, Luke and Leia have managed to rendezvous with the fleet. We know we're heading into the next story. That's fine. Have an open door, all that kind of stuff. Introduce what's going to be bringing us there. But at the same time, this movie has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's got to have its own ending. So this kind of ties back to the point number 2, that you've got to make sure this stands as its own movie. And a big part of that is making sure it has a definitive ending, much like Infinity War did. So again, my personal 5 big mistakes that I think Doomsday is going to have to avoid is, number 1, don't have pointless cameos. Have cameos. Just make sure they have a function. Number 2, don't just treat this movie as a setup for Secret Wars. Otherwise, you're doing disrespect to the movie and you're doing disrespect to the audience. Number 3, don't assume that the audience knows any of the lore. Don't make anybody do homework to be able to go and watch this movie. Number 4, do not chimp out on the action. Yes, we want good character work. We want a good narrative, but it's a comic book movie at its heart. Make sure we got a lot of action to go along with it. And then number 5, do not fail to have a definitive ending to the movie. Even one that opens doors going into Secret Wars, don't fail there. Anyway, Rob, those are what I think are the 5 key things they've got to avoid. Do any of these stand out to you? What do you think about them? Are there any that you would add to this list?
There's one thing. Okay. I don't think that anybody, your 5 things I think are all points very well taken. I don't think we have to worry about those things. However, that said, here's what I worry about the movie. By all metrics, by the things that I understand about Hollywood, the movie cannot help but be longer than 3 hours already. Now, they've talked about they're re-releasing Endgame.
Right.
I think, and this worries me, I think because of the runtime that they have, and I understand releasing a movie that's 3 hours long. I mean, they have the precedent of Endgame and all that, but there are ways. I can't really get into why I feel this way, but there are ways that they could move things out of Doomsday and put them into Endgame. Just not big scenes, but small things from the first 30 minutes of Doomsday to alleviate the running time. They could add an end. I mean, I'm not going to talk about specifics, but they could do that. And I hope they don't, because I think that if I can say this, the structure of Doomsday, because now it sounds like I'm telling tales out of school. I thought it is pretty perfect, but I could see them going. They have a problem. They have a running time issue that the studio is going to say, bro, you guys can't make a 3-hour plus movie, even though what they were working from is already 3 hours plus. And I'm like, that's some bold shit. Like I think an audience, I don't think running time is a factor in this movie. And I just worry that I thought Project Hail Mary might have been hurt, even though it's made a ton of money, so it doesn't matter. So I'm wrong. But I think Project Hail Mary could have been a better movie if it was a little bit longer and they had scenes that they took out of the film. It doesn't matter, because what I think is immaterial based on what it made. But I think with Doomsday, they've got a real issue that they're going to talk about. And it's going to go back and forth, and they're going to edit. They're going to put things in and take things out. I think in the case of Doomsday, I worry about they'll cut too much out of it just to keep it at 2:45 or something. I hope they don't. That's the worry that I have.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it.
I am.
I think Kevin Feige will make the film the length it needs to be. And if that's 2 hours and 15 minutes, it's going to be 2 hours and 15 minutes. If it's going to be 3 hours and 5, they'll do 3 hours. Now, I don't think they're going to let them make a 3.5 hour movie. But I think going into it, they know that. So I don't think the Russos and McFeely sat down. Was it McFeely or was it, I think it was McFeely. Anyway,
it's McFeely, I believe.
Yeah. I don't think they sat down and said, we're going to put together a 5-hour movie and see how long they'll. No, I think they knew how long they.
I agree, and I think that more than any other MCU movie, the setup, the first 40 minutes of this movie are incredibly important, and I think that based on, call it what we know, they did a wonderful job with those first 40 minutes.
Yes.
And I think that there's ways that they could pull stuff out, which I hope they don't. That's all I'm going to say.
All right, guys. What do you think? What do you think about any of the 5 things that I'm saying they've absolutely got to avoid? Do you disagree with any of them? Are there some things you would like to add to that list? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. And that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. Big special thank you to all you guys in the live chat who have been joining us live in there. Great to see you. I love watching your conversations and your comments. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. I want to thank, of course, our technical director, Jonathan Voico.
See you soon.
Our resident writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer Burnett.
What about the Odyssey?
What about the Odyssey?
It's on the frame behind you.
Oh my gosh, we still have to talk about the Odyssey.
I thought I would mention it.
I was like, maybe he just really wants to keep it to an hour and skip it.
It's just like,
You know what it is? I've got them out of order on my list in front of me, and I totally forgot to talk about the Odyssey.
I didn't
way
wanna-
you
I didn't
slowly
wanna step
turn to
on
look
your
at your
toes, but
TV.
I've been staring at it the whole show.
I say, what about the Odyssey? We already talked about the Odyssey. We're on to, oh, we haven't talked about the Odyssey. Well, that's why Jonathan, why didn't you remind me?
I just thought you wanted to keep it to a
We
tight
were both
hour.
looking at each
We were
other
talking about
wondering,
runtime
like-
errors, and I'm like, he wants to keep this a tight hour.
Yeah.
All right, the thing that's on the thumbnail of the show today.
He runs a tight ship. If that's our headline, we
like-
scrap it.
You know what? We're supposed to be about an hour show. Screw the Odyssey. All right. Well, forget all that. Let's move on to this, shall we? As if it was totally planned. Ladies and gentlemen, coming out in July is, of course, The Odyssey. The new Christopher Nolan film, a film that I'd like to remind everybody sold out screenings a year in advance. Something that had literally never happened before in the history of cinema. And the anticipation is huge. The first trailer, super well received. Then they put out that, what they call the prelude of the Trojan War with the horse and all that kind of stuff. Some of the best footage in advance of a movie I've ever seen. I mean, it was heart-pounding, intense, beautifully shot. Cannot wait for this film. Well, last night on the Colbert Show, we had Christopher Nolan was a guest with
It
Stephen
was a
Colbert.
great interview.
Great interview.
The extended version's on YouTube. It's great.
And during which time, they decided to drop a new trailer for The Odyssey.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't realize it was coming onto the show. So I'm just like, why would they drop it this late? I'm sitting here playing Foundation. I'm like, what the heck? is
Jonathan
popping
came
up?
into the studio this morning, and I'm sitting here working away, and Jonathan comes in, and he's like, man, that was a weird time to drop the Odyssey trailer. I'm like, oh, it's because it was coincided. But I think a lot of people didn't realize that Nolan was on Colbert last night.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's why they dropped it at a very unconventional time for when people normally drop trailers. So this trailer drops, and really, to me, what this trailer gives us is the actual stakes of the movie. This is the trailer that really tells us what's at the heart of this movie. It's a man trying to get home. And not just to get home, but to save his family, save his kingdom, save his wife, save his son. And the bane of that existence, as it is for many men, is Robert Pattinson. Twilight boy
Dang,
is
man.
back again.
Batman,
He's
boy.
going to bring a twilight to your kingdom.
He's coming. He's coming for your wife. He's coming for your kids. He's coming for them. And I'm going to tell you right now, this trailer was awesome. This trailer was awesome. I really felt the stakes of it now. Now, like in the last one, okay, Matt Damon, Odysseus, just kind of doing his thing. But this trailer makes you feel his obsession. This trailer makes you feel his quest. This trailer makes you feel why he needs to get home. And now this is a story I got to see. I mean, listen, The Odyssey's been a movie I've got to see, but now this is a story I've got to see. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And, you know, here's the funniest thing. Trailers are like movies. They're, packaged pieces of art put out there, and you like it or you don't, and that's fine. If you're one of the people out there who didn't like this trailer, oh well, that's okay. We like and dislike different things. But here's the dumbest criticism that I've heard some people reaching for.
Careful, chat. He's coming for you.
And I've seen this with some other things, and I've always thought that this is one of the dumbest criticisms anybody can have of a movie or a show, depending on the specific circumstance, which is this. Why are they speaking with American accents? What? Well, this is in Greece. Yeah. Okay, you do know that if this was geographically and culturally locale appropriate, that these characters would not be speaking with a Greek accent, they would be speaking Greek. And then y'all be crying, I don't want to read subtitles. It is the single dumbest thing. They should be speaking with Greek accents. What the fuck are you talking about?
I'm never watching Ben-Hur again.
Just go watch it dubbed in Greece.
Accents, they'd be speaking Greek. And if they're not going to be speaking Greek, what's the point of having them speak with Greek accents? Well, John, they did it for Hunt for Red October. Yes, they did. They didn't need to, but they did.
Yeah, Sean Connery's Russian accent was great in that movie. He was speaking with a Scottish brogue. When Cortez went to the New World, he burned his ships.
I just, that whenever I see, and it's not just about the Odyssey. Whenever I see any movie that's supposed to be set in a different culture and they're speaking with British accents or American accents, and I see people complaining about it, I'm like, you do realize they wouldn't be speaking with Italian accents. They'd be speaking Italian if they were in that particular movie. They're not going to be talking like this.
They could see it dubbed they can go to Greece and see it dubbed.
Why does Luke not speak Tatooine?
Yeah. Why everybody there would be speaking Huttese? Like, it's just, that's the one that gets me. Now, the one criticism I've seen about this particular trailer that I actually agree with, and Rob, you and I were talking about it a little bit earlier. It's the first thing that stood out to me.
Yeah.
And I know it's such a little thing. I know it feels like a bit of a nitpick. I completely understand. But it really did jump out at me when Tom Holland does not refer to Odysseus as father, but he says, my dad. Gosh golly, mister, my dad is coming back. I don't know why. It's just a single word, but the use of the word dad instead of, father or whatever. I'm not going to dispute that it's stupid, but it jarred me a little bit. It felt a little bit jarring,
that was the only thing that jarred me.
Yeah, I mean, I love the trailer. Always just that one little thing of one single solitary word. I must admit, it kind of felt jarring to me. But other than that, I loved it.
In all period pieces that go back far enough, everybody says father. It's like when Morgana says to Merlin in Excalibur, "Are you the mother and the father now, Merlin?" Yes, I am.
So what did you think about the trailer?
I really liked it. I mean, look, if you don't know the story, if you haven't read Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, if you haven't read those stories and you don't know what's going on, I mean, Odysseus is going to lose his kingdom because there's lots of dudes that want to take over his kingdom and want to marry his wife. And that's the peril of the story.
They want to be the daddy.
Odysseus has to get home, otherwise he is going to be usurped, both in his own bed and in his own kingdom. And that's it. They really got into that. Look at all those ruffians in his great hall.
Dude, this shot.
Oh, I know.
This shot just it gave me tingles seeing it.
And also the Cyclops,
Yeah.
And I mean, I know the story so well, and I just want to, and I loved seeing Christopher Nolan talk about this story and how it affected him when he was a kid and wanting to do this. It's a great interview, by the way. But all this stuff, come on. Who doesn't want to see the Cyclops? I mean, since when I was a kid and read that, I want to see the Cyclops. And, Ray Harryhausen did a good Cyclops. And this is a physical, they have a physical puppet. It's not a CG creature. It's like physical. I want to see that, man. Bring it on. I can't wait.
Yeah, I think this thing looks great. July, I've got my IMAX tickets for the opening day.
Hell yeah,
I
you
didn't
do.
get them a year ago when they first became available. I just got lucky that somebody else got them and now can't go and is letting Ann and I have them. So
Damn it. I wish
pretty
I had
excited
people
about
like
that.
You're kind of paying it forward to Rob though, because then you let him go to see the boys.
There you go.
yes, there you go. All right, guy, question is for you. What did you think about the Odyssey trailer? I thought it was great, but listen, a trailer is like a movie's like a TV show. Just because one person thought it was great, maybe it didn't work for you, and that's perfectly fair. Whatever you guys thought about it, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. I already said goodbye earlier, so that'll do it. We'll talk to you next time, guys.
It's like, yeah, Dad.
Bye-bye.
Dad.